generous, so I'm letting you handle these crims on your own.
Welcome, my name is Felhammer and I'm here to give you my thoughts on APB Reloaded. APB, or All Points Bulletin Reloaded, is actually a remake of the original APB made by Real Time Worlds and released in June of 2010. The company went into administration in August of that year and sought a buyer for the game. K2 Network then picked up the game and a subsidiary, Reloaded Productions, took up the mantle. APB Reloaded is a free-to-play MMO shooter that borrows heavily from games like Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row. Its main hook is that instead of performing missions where you are opposed by computer-controlled AI, you are actually opposed by players on an opposite faction. This leads to much more interesting and less procedural gunfighting, and when combined with group play, leads to a truly rewarding, objective-based shooter-cum-sandbox game. It's important to mention that at present the game is in open beta, and so this is not a finished product. There are a few bugs currently present in the game, and mechanics like the matchmaking system are not yet optimized, sometimes leading to prolonged periods of frustrating play. The gameplay of APB is mostly third-person shooter, with driving thrown in a la GTA or other crime sandbox games. Players pick one of two factions to fight for, criminals or enforcers. Enforcers are basically vigilantes out to stop criminal activity by any means necessary. There are no holes barred in APB, it's kill or be killed. Players are assigned missions on a semi-random basis. You can pledge your services to one NPC or another, but the missions are essentially the same, and can become quite repetitive, particularly if there's a lack of opposition. They comprise of the standard go here, manipulate object, transport object, or destroy object varieties. By completing missions, players can advance their reputation with said NPCs, who grant you rewards in the form of cars, guns, clothing, and decals. You also gain money for buying said items. Players can also accrue a rating and a ranking. Rating allows you to actually use the hard-earned guns and cars you purchased, but seems to serve little other purpose. By the time you have actually unlocked and can afford the item you want, you usually have the rating for it, making this feel a little superfluous. Ranking is used in matchmaking to pitch you against players of a similar skill level. Although this system works well in the main, and matches, when you find them, are usually pretty balanced, the game can throw one or two higher ranked players against as many as 5 lesser ranked players. This leads to a horrible imbalance, particularly when players have to capture multiple objectives or play capture the flag type scenarios. Shooting mechanics are annoyingly simplistic and will, most likely, frustrate veteran FPS players, with no body part recognition, meaning that a shot to the foot does just as much damage as a shot to the head. Disappointingly, vehicles are modelled in the same way. You can't, for instance, blow out tyres or hit petrol tanks, so there's no point in trying to sabotage opponent vehicles unless you've got some grenades handy. Driving feels similarly ham-fisted, with cars feeling weightless and floaty to drive rather than gritty and realistic. Most cars are rendered server-side rather than client-side, admittedly by necessity, meaning that any latency in the game is translated to the controls of the vehicle, making them feel even worse to control, and often leading to fishtailing, as drivers struggle to keep their cars in a straight line. The main lure of APB is the player versus player missions, noticeable in-game when you receive an eponymous APB notification. This means that other players have been pitted against you, with objectives set directly at odds to yours. Where you might be asked to raid a particular dwelling, the opposition will have been the task of preventing you from doing so. This is where the game really shines, as pitched street fights are almost inevitable. Cover can be used to great advantage, and the districts of the city are littered with back passages, alternate routes, indoor hiding places, and ambush sites. Players can drive each other around, and companions riding shotgun can hang out the side of cars and shoot opponents as they pass by. The game becomes swift and brutal, coordination is key, and moving fast and thinking quickly essential. A wide variety of weapon types give a variety of tactical options, from the cuss-inducing sniper rifles to the equally devastating short-range SMGs and shotguns. There is no shortage of way to inflict misery and suffering on your rivals. This then is the great brilliance and irritation of APB. When the system works and matches you in a fair fight, it's massively enjoyable. When you're stuck repeating the same mission over and over again for less reward, the game gives you less rewards for completing missions without an APB, it can feel pointless, dull, and you feel disconnected from the game world. This isn't helped by a lack of interaction between players outside of missions. Players can't attack each other whilst wandering in the city, and often the only interaction players have outside of battle is to annoy each other by crashing into one another's cars. Worthy of positive mention is the level of customization available to players. Characters' clothes, bodies, and cars can all be customized with a wealth of options, even with little or nothing unlocked. Guns can also be modified to suit a player's taste. Want a bit more effective range on that MP5? No problem. Keep running out of ammo? Grab an extended magazine. Graphically, the game performs well. As this is an MMO, you aren't going to get the graphical beauty of, say, Crysis or the facial expressions of LA Noire, but it holds up well when the bullets start flying and the cars start exploding. In terms of sound, the game can feel a little disappointing. If you're hoping for chunky gun noises with ratcheting reloads and ricocheting bullets, prepare to be a bit let down. The sound is functional at best, guns sound a little weak, and the city isn't filled with all the sounds that perhaps a bustling city should, further emphasizing the disconnected feeling when not in battle. On the plus side, all cars come with a radio, and you can import your own music into the game, allowing you to listen to anything from Britney Spears to Metallica as you hit the streets. In summary, APB is a flawed but solid game, and my hope is that the developers will iron out the disappointments and tidy up the matchmaking system for product release. If they do, expect to see a hell of a lot of violence hitting the streets of San Paro.